Welcome, everyone. This is Comically Exposed, episode 26. I'm Heather Nye, your host, and your other host is... I screwed it up again, but that's okay.
No, it's
that's
great.
Okay.
I'm Gabbie Blackman.
Yeah.
I think that was
okay.
good.
I need that reassurance.
No, once is assurance. Any more than that,
at least tell me 3 times, please. Just kidding.
Yeah. It was terrible. It was the worst. I think we've caused a genocide. Yes. Okay. Anyway, too soon, Gabbie. Stop making that joke. We're just at the beginning of a podcast after a long hiatus. Oh boy.
Okay. Well, just first talking points. We're launching our new episodes on YouTube, and we'll have archived episodes too. So they're only audio only, but you'll have another source to listen to our podcast.
YouTube and YouTube
yes,
Music.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you guys are just big YouTube heads and you've been like, why can't I listen to my favorite podcast on YouTube? Your prayers have been answered.
Yes, they have been.
It's all gravy from here on out, unless you don't like gravy, in which case it is something else.
Yeah. What's opposite? What's more flavorful than gravy?
That's a really good question. I thank you for bringing that up. I'd say more flavorful than gravy is probably just taking allspice from the cabinet and just doing a couple lines. That's what the kids do.
That's what you're telling all the children to do that listens to our podcast.
Yeah. Yes. That listen to our podcast, and also the ones that I tutor. Because, I'm more than a math and science tutor. I'm also a degenerate that likes to make sure that people are doing terrible things with spices.
Yeah, you're starting a new cinnamon challenge with allspice.
I am, and that's called the sassafras challenge. And the thing is, it's very expensive because sassafras is very expensive. So you have to get like your body's weight worth of it. And then actually, you just fill up a bathtub and you lie in it. It's not that damaging, other than to your pocketbook. But I do have stock in sassafras, so
just for everyone
just trying to get the word out.
Yeah.
But it is a good supplement for you to rub on your temples. It'll change your face into the face you've always wanted. I don't know what rails we've gone off of, because I don't know if we started on them, but here we are.
Yes.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
I've really missed this podcast, and I've missed talking to you on a regular basis, but there have been very good reasons as to why we took a break and then had to take a little bit more of a break. Before the podcast, Heather and I were just swapping good old healthcare stories because being a person in a human body in this country is fun.
All we can do is laugh.
All you can do is laugh. Very quickly, I got 2 new pairs of glasses. In none of the paperwork does it tell me which prescription is in which glasses. One is for nearsighted things, one is for farsighted things. And I don't know, I guess it's dealer's choice. I can't tell a huge difference between the two. So maybe that should tell you. It could be the same prescription. It could just be a wild prank that Kaiser is tossing to me. But at the same time, I was thinking about how getting an actual diagnosis for whatever it is, whether it's mental health or actual health, sucks. And most of the time, especially if you're Heather or I, you have already done so much internet research that you show up to the doctor's appointment having more current understanding of the field than they do. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's 2025. Things are great.
That sounded very convincing.
Thank you. Well, provided that our listeners are listening semi close to this year, I'm sure they know things are great. That's in quotes. Or they're listening in the future and they know that this was the salad times before everything really went to shit.
Where the United States was called the United States.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Before the federal government was like annihilated completely and Putin took over and, whatever it is that's coming. Can't wait, by the way. Super excited. Love that Elon guy. Just I can't come up with anything. Every time I see Elon Musk or Trump, and this isn't a political podcast, but here we are. Every time I see them, I involuntarily say out loud, I hate that man. Hate that man.
Yeah, that's an easy one. I think I say it like every single day, at least 5 times. Yeah. Just as much as the fruits and vegetables I get. It's my
1000%.
daily dose in my diet.
Daily dose. Yeah, it's good. It's super good. Okay, listen, I did write down a couple of notes for the episode of things that I wanted to talk about. So I don't know what the hell. Let's jump in.
Yeah, let's jump in. Let's
to actual stuff. So this is
jump.
Yeah. This is a podcast about comedy, and it is a podcast about OCD.
True.
FYI, for those of you who have been listening so far and are like, no, it's not. Anyway, I was going to talk about a couple of things. One is my student who's trying ERP for the first time and is really struggling with it. And I was thinking about how everybody I know struggles with ERP, like to begin with. And feels like it's not going to work. Feels like maybe it'll work, but not for me. I'm a real bad case, and then usually get some relief from it. Or for me, like a ton of relief. But then I've been talking to their parents recently, and now, listen, I love that mental health is out there and everywhere. That YouTube and TikTok and Twitter is all able for us to see people going through different things and hearing their lived experiences, and medical professionals and all of that. I think is super important.
Yeah, because nobody is the same, right?
1000%. I also wonder, like, if you are in the midst of suffering, which I am very lucky to be in sort of, recovery or maintenance phase, right? But if you're in the midst of suffering, it can be so tempting to try and figure out the correct diagnosis.
Ooh.
Did that hit a chord?
Yeah, I know that one very well. Very, very well. Yes.
And it's a combination of actually having healthcare professionals, which is a giant hurdle in its own fucking right. And then having ones that you both respect and feel comfortable being completely yourself in front of, or being completely honest or whatever, so that they can help you. So those are those two hurdles. And then also whether or not they've been trained in all the different potential diagnoses or illness or whatever that one might have. So that is so much. And so I know why going to the internet is both helpful, but then I also worry.
Yes.
Like, what if people are cycling through diagnoses too quickly?
Yeah. Or getting information that's based on papers that were discredited.
Right.
Yeah.
Or, just, and I think you and I have talked about this before as well, which is like the DSM-5 now has so many separate diagnoses of different distinct diseases, even though they have a lot of overlapping symptoms.
Yeah.
And so whether or not, I've had a really good therapist who said maybe the diagnosis, the label, is not as important as looking at all the symptoms and figuring out what treatments might work.
Yeah.
Which I love.
I agree. because I fall in that same vein, I think, with my therapist, because I always bring something up, and it becomes an interesting discussion because he does hear me out. And we might argue about something, but it always comes back to, does it really matter to know the final diagnosis? If these are the elements that we know, it's like, these are the things that we know that are happening.
Yes.
These are the treatments that can help with these elements,
Yes.
And so that's that part of like accepting uncertainty that's been like truly very helpful for me. Because I always fall back, it's like, do I have ADHD? Am I autistic?
Yeah.
Is it really OCD? Do I have enough OCD? It's always these little things, right? Yeah. Yeah.
That should be our very first merch, is a t-shirt that says, do I have enough OCD? Question mark.
Yeah.
And on the back, uncertainty rules.
Yes.
Thumbs up. But yeah, exactly. And for me as well, figuring out that it was uncertainty that I couldn't handle.
Yeah.
That was causing me, or either causing me the anxiety, or the anxiety was causing the fact that there was uncertainty in the world to be not tolerable. Like,
well, it's to satisfy that itch, right? That feeling, that icky, like, it's like, what is that? It's like, is that really going to solve it? Is that really, like all that stuff? And then you go down this little trail of thoughts, that ends up, becoming a compulsion or is a compulsion, right? From the initial intrusive thought that brought you to that uncertain thinking. So
1,000%. Yeah. So I guess everybody, we're changing our podcast from OCD to,
Yeah. And
maybe.
And that's the thing about uncertainty, is that what it ends up causing is this kind of rigid thinking, because you're just trying to be protective. You're trying to go, it's like an if then statement. It's like, it can be solved if I know this is the problem, then I do these things. That's going to solve it. And it brings that reassurance that, it's solved, but then the reality is that it's not really solving. It's about living.
Yeah. Yes. And getting so caught up in certainty as a way of like controlling your life makes your life so small, because you really can only have certainty on these tiny little things in your life, like piling things in threes or whatever it is. Yeah. So then that takes over your entire life. And it's like, well, wait a minute. That was the whole point of this, was so that I could like live my life.
Yes.
In some level of comfort. And now it is all I do is this rule that I've come up with.
Which is causing like, your anxiety to go up, your depression to show up, all these things that end up spiking. Yeah. And then you have these other thoughts that swirl in, right? Because when you start to overthink about the things you can't control.
Well, yeah. And again, trying to solve a thinking problem with thinking is always recommended.
Yeah.
I do have this like current theory, I guess, right now, which I don't know if it's tough love or actually not good, but I'm putting it out into the world. And okay, or maybe it's not that big of a leap. Regardless, when my mental health was super bad and I couldn't leave the house, I couldn't leave my room, I couldn't talk to people on the phone. It was bad. And all I was trying to do was make my day semi-comfortable just to like live through it. And then when I found out, it's uncertainty that I actually have to like hold closer to me, and being uncomfortable that I have to hold closer to me. It took a minute, but then the exposure therapy brought that in, and I felt such relief, and it was such a joy. I wonder, I've got so much judgment as to how I'm going to say this, but I wonder if we're not coddling ourselves too much, because like in my OCD group, almost everybody has had an experience of traveling and having their OCD take a back seat and them actually enjoying their life more than when they're home.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, to me, I'm like, oh yeah, because home is familiar and that's where you can have your rules. When you're out and about in France, them's the rules.
Yeah.
Right? So then I wonder, I'm not saying like take your teens to those terrible camps that people were doing in like the 90s when they were unruly or whatever else.
Or,
but
you know,
just
yeah.
yeah, those kind of camps. But like maybe us, oh boy, maybe us sort of coddling our loved ones when they're in the midst of this particular kind of mental illness is actually enabling.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a hard one. Because, you know, people can be roped into your compulsions too. I mean, that's exactly what happened to me with my previous therapist, who wasn't an expert or experienced with OCD. And I was finding myself cycling through, and every time I was done with therapy, I would feel awful.
Yeah.
And until now, like, or, you know, until I started with my psychiatrist, my current psychiatrist, I started realizing, oh, I'm doing a compulsion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making, like, I'm either doing confessions or I'm, you know, like asking weird questions, you know, or just practicing avoidance. I mean, I literally did it all with her. And it was tough because, you know, talk therapy works for a lot of people.
Right.
And, but it didn't work for me. And I didn't understand what, like solving my problem was, you know, like whether or not, I had a problem to solve, you know, and it just, I don't know. And yeah, I can see that as being a contributor to not progressing. And truly it's out of kindness, right? Because you think someone is suffering
1,000%.
and you want them to not suffer anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of my loved ones were so kind to me when I was suffering. And like they did push me a little bit, but it was like also I would freak out if they tried to push me.
But we're not talking about you.
No. It's a friend. I have a friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had the same experience with talk therapy. Also in talk therapy, they would be like, let's focus on this one thing that you say is a problem. Yes. And I would be like, cool. And then they would think that the problem was solved. And I would be like, that did nothing.
What about this question?
Yeah, exactly. Because I have 70 million other questions. Yeah. So I guess what we're telling everybody is, you know,
but see,
stop sleeping in your bed, go sleep on the floor of the kitchen and see if that doesn't do something for you. I don't know.
Well, but so are you saying that this particular person is wanting to not do ERP? I
have no idea, honestly. Okay. It was just like some ideas that popped up in my head. Also with talking to my group about stuff.
Yeah.
That is just, I'm like, oh, right. If we're all experiencing less OCD when we travel, and it wasn't just like, you know, gorgeous vacations. It was like any kind of travel.
Yeah, where you're forced to be more present because you don't know your surroundings. Everything's new. You know, there's different rules and regulations that you're unaware of. Yeah. And so these things, you know, take you out of your head.
Control is... Yes, the control is taken away from you on some level. And so I'm like, well, maybe we should take away control from mentally ill people. And And that's the platform I'm running on. So.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, ERP was a really hard one to start with.
Right.
And so I kind of went at it like it's more sideways. And honestly, I do little ERP on my own, like almost every day. I do a little exposure every day. And for me, that is enough to kind of, bring me back to a little present minded. Or I treat something. It's like, oh, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, let's sit with that discomfort, not really think about like exactly what could happen, or think about what could happen, write out a little imaginal and, what is the worst outcome of that? And then it just kind of loses its power over time, but I think it had to do with a bunch of other therapies put into place for me. It was, doing self-compassion, doing acceptance commitment therapy, ACT. Doing, all this other stuff. And so, but again, it's an active participation in your recovery,
Yeah. Whereas talk therapy to me always felt like I was just saying words into the ether and I was supposed to get better, feel better from it. And it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
I would say I also do little ERPs. It's more like OCD has been doing sneak attacks.
It knows it does that well.
Yeah. And then I'm like, if I catch it, then I'm like, no, great. I'm just going to do the opposite. Thanks so much. And lately it's really been like, I think because of the state of politics or whatever else, it's really been like, hey, listen, you don't touch this doorway and Elon Musk is going to stay in power, right? It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Part of me wishes that were true, that I did have that amount of power. Like I feel so powerless in the current, state of things. A part of me is like, yeah, what's the, if it does? And then I'm like, no, that's how you were thinking before. That's what landed you into this mess. Okay. I also want to talk about comedy.
Let's talk comedy. Let's, this is a great comedy. Transition.
Seamless.
Yeah. You feel powerless. Let's talk comedy.
Okay. Yeah. Nothing makes one feel funnier than powerlessness. I don't know if that's true. But you and I were talking about not telling people that we were in comedy or trying to do comedy because it comes to some just like the most ridiculous interactions.
It's like, be funny. Tell me a joke.
Yeah, tell me a joke. Or even people have said like, send me a sketch. And I'm like, or they said, send me a skit. And I'm like, okay. First of all, sketch. Second of all, no.
Yeah. Or they'll talk about their memoir or their screenplay that they've been working on for 30 years, which is, more power to them. It's like if they're writing something, go for it.
Sure. But if it's your optometrist doing this to you during your appointment.
Yeah, which actually happened. Yeah, an optometrist I didn't usually go to. I got their partner did my treatment, and that was a fascinating experience. I don't know. I don't know if I want to divulge too much about it, but it's one of those things where it was like, can we get to the eye appointment?
Yes. I think the appropriateness of the timing and the setting was not there from the professional standpoint.
Very true. I mean, I did have a good appointment with somebody that was curious about our podcast when I was at a dermatologist getting a mole removed. And she literally removed my mole and asked me questions. And she was genuinely interested. And, that actually made me feel good. It wasn't like, she was trying to sell me on something. She was just, whoop, mole came off. Great. You're doing a podcast.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Usually, like the majority of the interactions are like, oh, that's so cool. Where do you perform? Or something like that, which is awesome. But yeah, definitely the ones that are like, send me a written sketch. And I'm like, send me your ID. What are we doing?
Aren't we on a date? This isn't like an interview.
And also, like, if you can't tell I'm funny right now, then we should stop this date regardless.
Yeah. This was the interview for the date.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah,
failed
exactly.
the interview. I'm sorry. Goodbye.
Yeah. Like, go ahead and grab some candy on your way out, because I do keep a candy dish even when I go to restaurants.
Just
a
like
tub.
little hard candies.
Yeah, little hard candies. Those little, like, wrap up strawberry ones.
Yeah.
With the gushy center. Yeah.
Oh, you have good hard candy.
Thank you. I try and, do unto others as a little gushy hard candy does to your pre-diabetes. That's not a... I'm a medical professional. I wouldn't worry about it. Anyway, how's comedy going, Heather?
Comedy hasn't been going as much as I would like, but I have been thinking about starting projects and doing comedy in small steps. I think, I don't know if I said this last time we met, like, for a recording, like back in episode 25, like 400 years ago. But I have been thinking about how to do small steps to do multiple projects at once. But being able to focus in these small ways of, like, just getting progress done. Because I think what happens to me is I get overwhelmed by the whole thing. Sure. And it's as if I jump into the middle and then just kind of go, I can't do this. And then never finish. Which always disappoints me at the end. And so I feel like I need to get into small projects. I have been contemplating, and I know I said before that I didn't want to take classes, but I was more like thinking about intentionally taking a class to help facilitate, like, meeting people and then working on and being more intentional with a project that I want to start rather than just kind of coming at it with nothing. But I haven't officially decided what that class is. And whether or not I want to take it, it's like, it's more like if I find, like, something, it's like, oh, that's cool, I want to collaborate on that, then, take the initiative to kind of participate in that. Or if taking a class, like, if something just sounds interesting, like, there's somebody that we follow that she has some great classes that's called Writing is Bananas. And she has some really great screenwriting classes that are female focused. I've taken a few classes with her before, and she's a really great teacher. And so I was thinking about a few of her classes. But again, I'm just like, am I looking for the class to take to actually work on a project? Or is this, like, going to be kind of like a crutch to, like, not progress on the things that I've been thinking about? And so I think I need to stop thinking and just... Because shout out to her if you're actually looking for a writing class. She is a great person, and I'll link her information to the podcast. But I think for myself, I need to figure out. Maybe I don't need to figure it out. Maybe I just need to set up a time and just do something. Just throw it at the wall and then see what happens. But not be abusive about it, but also not coddling myself and steep in overthinking. Sorry, you just entered my brain for a second. Ooh. Finally. I know. Because I am, as I've been called over and over again by my psychiatrist, a classic overthinker. I'm good at it. It is, I am a champion at overthinking. Yeah.
LA Olympics.
It is.
You and me, man.
Truly. Yes.
I pity the fool that comes up against us, because we will overthink them to dust.
Yes, we will. And there will be a special medal for us. It will not be gold. It will be platinum. We will get the platinum in overthinking every single time.
Yeah.
So
if we can make it out of, like, the warm-up room, having not overthought ourselves into paralysis.
Yes. But technically that's
true. I just don't know when. It's been a while since we've been to the Olympics.
Since we've gone to the overthinking gym.
Yeah. Although been working out on our own, like we're getting paid for it.
Yeah. Could you imagine that space full of people just sitting there?
Yeah, 1,000%. Just all staring off at a wall / ceiling with like various, expressions of kind of like upset.
Yeah.
And
you'll hear like it'll be pretty much silent in there except for a few or sighs like
yeah.
Disappointment or
I think the class is a good idea. I also have like in my head thought about like I've never taken a pilot class because I'm like, I want to come to the class with an idea already so that I don't spend time like thinking about what a good idea might be or not, or blah, blah, blah. I just want to have something that I want to work at so that the class is like useful as opposed to starting yet another project that I'm going to feel bad about not completing.
Yeah. And that's my, I feel like that's my next approach. If I did take a class is needing to come to the table with an idea. Because I think, the kind of paralysis that we get from overthinking an idea rather than just throwing something at the wall is challenging because I feel like, I don't know, maybe throwing something at the wall is interesting, but it's one of those things where it's like, oh, this isn't working. I don't like this. And then all you're thinking about is that other idea.
Totally.
And so.
Yeah. And also the fact that you do not like the idea that you're currently working on. But at the same time, I'm with you. It's like, is there going to be because I keep thinking that there's going to be like a flash of creativity that's going to hit me. And I'm just going to like not even be able to leave the apartment. I just have to get it all down on paper. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, that's right. I don't do cocaine. So that's probably not going to happen.
Or showers. That's where I get most of my ideas is washing my hair and going, oh, that is how I'm going to get those two characters to interact with each other. Or, this is where the fight starts. And then I'll shout at my husband, write this down.
The creative process is nothing if not smooth and easy.
Yeah. And get people involved.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
By force.
Have someone sitting at a whiteboard. Yeah.
You there.
Write
this down.
Yeah.
I don't know you. Well, you do now. Have the idea of a century.
Ooh, yeah. An idea would be waterproof Post-it notes.
That is a good idea. I don't necessarily think that we need to go to the sharks and start inventing products, but fuck it. Put it on the list,
Yeah. I invented it.
It's done.
It's the waterproof Post-it note.
Probably NASA.
Although, 3M owns, Post-its, right?
They do.
Does 3M own
I'm
Post-its?
sure they do.
So I'll call it Postums.
And they'll never know.
They'll never know. They won't hear this podcast. I'll be a millionaire, which is not very rich in this country anymore.
No.
And
man, seriously. So speaking of, my comedy journey currently is kind of impeded on my needing to make rent. What? So I have been focused on building out my tutoring business, awesomesaucetutor.com. That's right, people. It's all
also going to be plugged on our podcast website too.
Sweet.
So
that I actually need to tutor in order to make money in that business. It's just, I don't know. I've been willing. I have been making friends with my local crows by giving them walnuts, but they have not been paying me money. So I do need some other income streams and I'm working on it. And so like me wanting to go and do comedy, it just feels like it's always on the back burner. And in particular now, because I'm like, I still like to have a roof over my head. So, but I do want to start my other podcast, comedy podcast. And I do want to get on stage. And the overthinking part, this is what reminded me of it. The overthinking part is a huge chunk of it because I'm like,
oh, yeah.
I need to have a tight 5 before I get on any open mic stage. Meanwhile, there are 20-year-olds who just get up there and are like, yo, I have a fleshlight now. And you're like, nobody cares. Honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, okay, you're funny too, like naturally. So, yeah. So just get up on stage.
I
dude.
know. Seriously, I just need to find a stage, get up there, have a mic, and just go, I'm funny. And then stare at the audience.
That's how every comedian starts their set, is to announce how funny they are.
And then I wait for them to scream, tell us a joke, show us a sketch, and then I launch into it. Right.
Or you could launch the other way and go, I don't have to show you a thing.
That's right.
I'm funny.
Right. I get up there. I'm extremely combative. Nobody has any idea who I am or what I'm about. And already off the bat, nobody likes each other. And then from there, it's easy. But
millions of dollars.
Millions. Where are those crows? Okay. The other things that we should talk about is Angie's episode is coming up.
Oh, yeah. Next episode 27, Angie Hawkins. She's a writer. She discusses her memoir, talks about anxiety and grief and making big moves. So, next time.
Which is so admirable. It's like the fact that, I don't know. We both hate Elon Musk. We both hate Trump. But if we could just have just that soupçon of like, undeserved self-motivation. I don't know what it is. Like, just the lack of thought process that is, the world deserves to hear my nonsense, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Making, hearing our voices instead of having to shout the voices out and carry a chainsaw around on stage.
Oh, I hate that man. I hate him so much. Yeah. So this is Make America Hear My Voice. I'm Funny Again is the name of my comedy show.
Yes. Your comedy special that will be on Netflix in 2026.
It's going to be on Nick Flux.
Nitflux.
It did make it to Netflix.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Netflix is it's a warehouse. Nobody's there, but I will be doing comedy with the crows.
Internet works sometimes.
Exactly. And if I show up as a dead body someplace, you'll know why. I was antagonizing the warehouse.
And not the crows.
Well, they're my friends. They get it.
Yes.
They understand sarcasm coming from a woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the crows get it. The crows get it.
And that is also the other t-shirt. It just says the crows get it. And people will know what that means. Yeah.
Or be confused.
Well,
because it could allude to being sexual too, you know.
It's I hope it's not alluding to anything. It is. And that's the OnlyFans is just crows doing it. I don't know what that looks like. Now I'm overthinking, what does crows doing it look like? Do I need to look that up on the internet? No. I know.
You're going to search it on the internet. Crows doing it. And that's the new website, crowsdoingit.com.
Crows doing it. If that's not already
.org.
What?
.org.
.biz.
Yeah.
Because they're giving each other the business.
The business. Yes, I like that. Yeah.
Well, honestly, I think this is a great first episode back. It was, we talked about OCD. We talked about comedy. Check.
We talked about crows doing it.
Just never going to stop making me happy. We've upgraded the merch table from nothing to still nothing. And we actually are going to be on YouTube and YouTube Music, which is cool.
Yeah, we were on YouTube. We just literally had nothing on it.
Just like the merch table. If you want it, go fuck yourself. And that's how we build our business.
And that's the end of the pod.
.biz. All right, everybody.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, 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 bye.
Welcome to the end of the show. This is Gabbie Blackman.
And this is Heather Nye.
Thank you for listening to Comically Exposed. We're just a little show with two creators who edit and produce each episode. We appreciate all your support.
If you like what you heard, please follow us on Instagram at comicallyexp.podcast. That's comicallyexp.podcast.
Oh, and check out our website at comicallyexposed.com. That's one word, comicallyexposed.com.
Where you can contact us by text or even leave a voice message.
Or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes drop every other Wednesday.
Also, special thanks to Track Club and Goldenfinch for providing the music.
Thanks for listening. And hey, everybody, today is a great day to expose yourself. Okay, until next time.
In your face, Miriam.